Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Good evening and welcome back. The escalating burden of public debts at both federal and state levels has presented significant challenges to budget implementation and sustainable economic development. Nigeria's national debt, managed by the Debt Management Office (DMO), encompasses both external and domestic borrowing. The DMO's mandate includes advising on debt policy, managing risk, and promoting the domestic debt market. Key economic factors influencing the management of Nigerian debt in Nigeria include debt servicing, budget deficit, and the impact of borrowing on economic growth. The discussion today will focus on the management of public debt as its impact on stimulating economic growth in Nigeria. And to have this conversation on the economics and management of national debt in Nigeria, we have an in-house guest, Ndudi Anichie, who is an ex-banker and financial analyst. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so just as it's no news that Nigeria owes a whole lot of money after even borrowing currently until now. Looking forward, we are already actually running into so much debt. And what would you have to say about this current situation, bearing in mind our financial and economic state in the country right now?
Okay, you see, when we elect leaders, they have a term of, is it 4 years?
4 years.
Or maximum 8 years.
8 years.
But you see, the actions or inactions reverberates beyond their tenure.
It doesn't just end with the tenure.
Exactly. The actions or inactions in office reverberates beyond their tenure. Many a times, it affects 2, 3, 4, 5 generations unborn. Why do I say that? Now, as regards the loans, the nation has been taken. Since I was born, we've been paying loans right from the first administration, right from 1966 till right from independence till dates, and gradually we've been paying it down. And we could see that our present exposure, both foreign loans and local loans, I checked it up on worlddebtclock.org. That's one site I always look at, irrespective of what the DMO is publishing. It's an online platform where all the nation's debt of the world is highlighted online, both from America, Europe, America. Currently is at $86 billion. Yeah, it updates on an online basis. $86 billion. The makeup of it, yes, DMO will give you both internal loans, both internal and external. When we say internal, the ones we raised locally, local bonds. You also have local bonds, you also have foreign bonds. And so, when they get into office, they take these loans. Many of these loans are being paid 30, 40, like external loans. Mm-hmm. The tenor is longer. It's basically 30 years. And so, if you look at, we're all in our 50s right now, close to 50 or 40s. You can see when the leaders who are in their 60s and 70s take these loans, they will not live forever. So the responsibility of paying these loans falls on us, because we must pay back. And so the question now is, in accepting these loans, how are these loans going to be deployed? Which is a key issue. Can we have identifiable trace these loans will be deployed. Those loans are meant to drive production. They're meant to drive productivity. Now, those loans in particular has to be tied to a particular project, so that at the end of the day, Nigerians can say, okay, this administration, this is the loan they take, and they can point to what it was deployed. Because the risk in every loan is there's a risk of diversion, where the money is disbursed but was diverted for another problem, for another issue. And so, whether we like it or not, when loans are disbursed, you must pay back. And it has, when you're paying back, you're paying at an interest rate, which is key. Because the creditor is also expecting a payback and a return on, because it's also an investment to the creditor. The nation that collects it is the debtor. So you're going to pay at an interest rate. And now we're talking about foreign denominated loans in foreign denominated currency. Currency right now is the American dollar, which you also have your exchange rate risk. Our currency is naira and we're borrowing in dollars. So when your currency is devalued against the dollar, you will tend to pay more for those loans you took, those foreign loans. That's why, to an extent, I advocate loans denominated in naira, because you can manage it. It's within your control.
Okay, the National Assembly is set to approve the President's loan request, which is on foreign debt that is near $70 billion currently.
No, I saw 21 billion. The current request right now, $21.5 billion.
So making
the
it
present
the total
administration. Okay, now the question now, what goes in my mind is, the country has a borrowing plan. I'm here to see the details of the borrowing plan, mostly in the MTF, or in that document requested that was transmitted to the National Assembly. I'd like to see for how long that 21 billion will be disbursed, will be accessed. Because rather than rather than writing to the Senate for borrowings maybe on an annual basis, what I'm looking at is they're looking at a whole basket of a single approval of $21.5 billion that will be used for an entire duration, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So that at every point in time when they're issuing their national budget, they access a tranche. So the entire 21.5 billion will not be disbursed in one bullet payment to the nation. So let's get this out there so that people are not maybe worked up that it's a huge sum. So it's going to be in tranches. So the question we should be asking is, to what particular project is the loan going to be tied to? This is my big concern. Because we've seen how loans have been taken in this country and there's no specific project it's been disbursed to. Let's take for example, we've been budgeting to pay, there was, before this present request, the DMO came out, the government came out with a request to raise a bond to pay outstanding pensions and liabilities, which is unfortunate. It's a very sad and a clear sign of proper mismanagement of the nation's finances. When you pay a salary, when you pay, the Pension Act for the federal government, when they pay salaries, they're also supposed to remit pension of it. So payment of salaries and pension is a recurrent expenditure. There is a budget for it. So why do we need to raise 758 billion in bond? Because that's the actual amount to clear outstanding pensions. Whereas in this year's budget, 2.4 trillion was budgeted for the entire development centers. I don't know if you understand. 2.4 trillion. When I say development center, Southeast Development Center, Northeast Development Center, South Development Center, Southwest Development Center. All the regions. 2.4 trillion was budgeted for it in this year's budget for development centers. Whereas you are having outstanding payment of pensions of Nigerians, which is a recurrent expenditure. So we need to borrow money to pay for a recurrent expenditure. That's a negative. So you could see the management of our finances has not been top notch. Mind you, we came out from the Obasanjo administration that had to clear 30 billion backlog, negotiated, cleared, and reduce our debt profile. And so right now we are going back and accumulating debts, and there are consequences for it.
So how has Nigerians' dependence on the oil sector influenced its borrowing patterns?
Well, okay. Now, we are very lucky to have crude oil at our backyard, which should be a plus for us as a nation, just like the Middle East. Unfortunately, we've not been able to maximize the natural resource given to us, because technically with crude oil that's hovering between $60 to $80 per barrel, we should have made a lot of savings to fund our budget and also reduce our indebtedness. When I say fund the budget, we'll continue to run a budget deficit. When I say budget deficit, we keep borrowing to fund the budget. With the surpluses we've been gaining in our crude oil sales, we should have been recording surpluses in our budgeting if we are very, very prudent in management of our resources. So we've not been able to handle that. Mind you, we also have not been able to manage and improve the petroleum industry from drilling of crude oil to refining of crude oil to eventual sales in the country was still important. So these are drawbacks which has not made the country benefit the full potentials of the energy sector.
So what structural flaws exactly in Nigeria's fiscal policy is actually the framework that keeps drawing us back into acquiring more debt, even when we try so hard not to?
The problem right now is, the economy. For any economy at all, if you look at the base of it, the strength of it is their power or their energy, and the road transport or rail transport is key. I don't know if you're currently on diesel right now. No country in Europe uses diesel to power electricity. It's individuals or businesses to power factories or any business. You can never ever be competitive. It's all gas-fired energy. We have abundance of gas in this country. I would love to see a situation where even these funds being borrowed is meant to upgrade our energy, our transmission lines. It's the weakest from generation, transmission to distribution. Improve on it, so that we're not just generating. You are still bragging about 5,000 megawatts. I've said it here. 5,000 megawatts is not fit for just the Ikeja industrial. If you've been to Lagos very well, Ikeja industrial area, 5,000 is not enough for it. We should be talking about 30 to 40 to 50,000 megawatts of electricity. So I love a situation where these loans is deployed towards power. Loans is deployed towards refineries. Loans deployed towards our railway. Loans deployed towards connecting all the depots so that we can stop trucking of petroleum products. It's a complete anomaly. Have you been to Tinkan Island? Tinkan Apapa Access?
No.
Okay. Now let me just paint a picture. Can you imagine trucks lined up from MNA Depot to Nightmare? Yes, that's the site.
That's a long line.
That is the site you will see in Tinkan Apapa Access, where you have tank farms, you have tank farms lifting petroleum products on trucks. And so it was never imagined or designed that we will be using trucking of this distance. That's where the pipelines and the depots were made for. And so we seem to not address this, or we seem not to address our energy problems completely.
Looking at Nigeria's debt profile, it is really increasingly tilting towards external and commercial borrowing. What implication can this have on our economy as well?
Okay, I hate to sound like a prophet of doom, but it's sad. This is just what will happen to. This is just what will happen. Now, many times when you go for foreign lending, for foreign borrowing, apart from even IMF, which is a conditionality, the country tends to devalue its currency. Whether it is IMF or international lenders, it can come. IMF, everybody knows this is a conditionality, but for foreign lenders, somehow subtly, it's an unwritten consequence that we need to devalue the currency. It's a sad aspect. So anytime your currency is nosediving, your wealth, your investments in naira, investment in fixed deposits, stocks, treasury bills, everything nosedives, and cost of living goes up because the value of the naira has gone down.
We are even experiencing it right now.
You will just be seeing gradual movements. If you're very observant of the exchange rate, you keep seeing movements. It's about 1,006 right now. It will keep gliding on, apart from the sharp ones which everybody experiences. But you see it gliding and gliding downwards, and like, what's happening? Because the private sector, they understand these things very, very well. Once they know the government is making moves into this, they all take a position to save their assets.
So looking at the duty of the DMO, what responsibility do they really play in the management of debt, national debt especially? Okay,
the DMO is a very good office that was established in Obasanjo regime to have a central data of our loans, collation, maturity. They just have the responsibility to they have the responsibility to package financial products in terms of our bonds and sell to the public to raise debt on behalf of the nation. Very good. But the responsibility lies with the federal government to manage its debt. That's why you now have the Minister of Finance and conjunction with central bank governor. These are the husbands and wife of the nation, the heartbeat of the economy. That's why if you across both Europe and America, when a central bank governor or finance minister speaks, it reverberates across all markets. The actions, statements, in fact, international investors or people that is stakeholders in the finance world, both locally and across the globe, they take it very serious.
Let's look at how these borrowed loans are being used. What mechanisms are in place to ensure that these monies are really used to, help our structure as well, not just borrow it and just fizzles into the air?
Okay, we've been advocating for loans tied to specific projects, so that even if the risk of diversion will be less, but those loans will achieve its desired objective. Now, if we're accessing, the 21 billion, I want to see a situation where, some of those loans is going to, let's say, we want to increase the capacity of our distribution, our transmission line. Very good. I will sign up for it. We want to see some of those loans channeled to building of more thermal plants. I'll sign up for it. Maybe we want to increase our energy generation from 5,000. I don't know currently what it is right now. We want to increase additional 10,000 megawatts. I will sign up for it. We want to increase the capacity of our distribution line to take 30 to 40,000 megawatts of power. I will sign up for it. We want to see loans for building of railway lines from Port Harcourt to Kano or to the north. I will sign up for it. I want to see a loan that will be diverted towards, that will be channeled towards dredging of Warri Port, Port Harcourt Port, or Calabar Port, so as to open that avenue rather than the congestion in Lagos. I will sign up for it, because in 10 to 20 years time, Nigerians will benefit it.
So why then do Nigeria keep borrowing money, even with the case of misuse of funds, and we keep running into debt for so long, and even still have poor publicity sector and even the public project implementation as well?
Well, it's all about leadership from the top down. And of recent, Nigerians have been advocating for lean government, smaller government that is very efficient, very prudent on its resources, rather than expanding it. Because when government expands its budget, the fund, you need fund to run that government. Those funds would have been channeled towards private sector. So these are the issues. So as long as government is not efficient in its management of its affairs, and they continue to expand its bureaucracy, we will need money to run it. You can imagine entitlements of public office holders, especially political office holders. It is big. So these are the issues. Now, there's also the question of, you've taken these loans. The nations, we import more than what we export. And so it has an impact on the value of your naira. Your naira depreciates. So you are less likely to generate more revenue, just likely to earn more income on your foreign reserve. And so your naira will be suffering challenges. Yes, the few funds you get from selling crude oil is barely enough to service your debts. So the question now is, outside crude oil, which is the only thing that earns the country revenue, foreign reserve, that's dollars. Do we have any other strategy towards addressing the debt? There should be. More or less like a plan B. I don't know if the studio can show John Exter's inverted pyramid. I sent it to your colleagues.
Okay.
You see, the pyramid saw that everything rests on gold. The gold which you know of. Nobody wants to talk about gold as a monetary policy again. But gold used to be the platform upon which currencies are thrown into existence. Government borrows money as a function of the amount of gold you have. Government bonds, businesses, all the monies are tied to your gold in your reserve. Now, what countries are strategically doing right now is they are building gold reserves as an alternative to earning forex, because gold is also an insurance for the rainy day. It might sound, I wish at your program they can present it here. Now, gold used to be a monetary policy tool before and a backing for foreign currencies. Since 1973, it has been sent to the background. But currently, gold is now making a resurgence across the globe. As at last year, January, the price of an ounce of gold was $2,000.
And currently it has increased.
Hold on. As at January this year, the price of gold ended with, as at December, the price of gold closed with 2,600. So it gained 600 naira. Last year to January.
$600.
$600, sorry. Today, right now, the price of an ounce of gold is $3,300.
So it has gained 1,300
in 1 year. Now, and it's in dollars. Now, Nigeria has 21.5 tons of gold. 1 ounce of gold, 1 ton of gold is equivalent to 32,000 ounces
of gold.
1 ton is equivalent to 32,000 ounces of gold. So you can now imagine multiplying $1,300 times 32,000 times 21.5 without working. Because of global politics, the pressure, everybody is running to gold as a safe asset. Gold has increased in its value. So, in the books of central bank, where we have 21.5 tons of gold, the book value, the real book value in the books of central bank will be 1,300 times 32,000 ounce, times 32,000 times 21.5. That's an income to the nation without sweating. It can also serve as a means to resolve or settle
the debt problem.
your debt. And so, I don't know if you recall, I've been mentioning about gold as a monetary reserve.
Yes.
Gold, it's more or less like to alert our central banks, managers of the economy. Let them look towards that direction as an alternative, to look at gold as an insurance and a monetary tool to address our debt.
So looking at things, the way things are now, what key strategies is Nigeria using to ensure the national debt is still sustained, it remains sustainable over time?
It's you need both short-term measures, long-term measures, and unfortunately, the political class would not want to hear anything about tightening their belts. Politicians will always want to expand and expand the bureaucracy. But when you tell them about, okay, reduce government bureaucracies, currently is only the president of Argentina, Milei. He slashed so many excesses of government and was able to fix the budget in 1 year. For political reasons, every politician will want to bring his retinue of aides. If you tell him to bring the Federal Executive Council have about 48 ministers, Nigeria. Whereas America has, I think, is it 20 or 21 ministers? America, as large as it is, has just 20. Okay, let's leave America alone. Let's look at Egypt and South Africa, our peers. They have about 30 or 35 ministers. What are we doing with 48? Or is it 48? But over 40. That's excess. That's excess load. Cut it down. The popular Oronsayo report that has been prepared for years now, gathering dust to streamline government bureaucracies. Nobody is talking about it because you'll be making savings. You'll be making savings. So this is one aspect. Now, another aspect is the actual deployment of the loans. If these loans are tied towards projects, the risk of diversion is less than if it's just typical cash that is given to the country to fund the budget. You're not going to see much about it. Because if I give you a loan, if it's such a way that it is tailored towards a project, definitely the money comes in, is used to buy maybe a power equipment imported to the country and take it straight to the site to set up. You only pay maybe logistics, you only pay maybe logistics or transportation costs for it, but the entire site, the entire structure, physical structure is laid. So these are ways we can minimize wastages in government finances, more especially funds that are borrowed. Because I just can't understand why we'll be borrowing 758 billion naira from the bond market to pay outstanding pensions liability. It's a sad moment.
So is there really a realistic way, not just a way, but a realistic way where Nigeria can actually find its way out of this debt web?
Okay. The problem about the debt is not a problem. It's only when it becomes too heavy
To pay back.
to pay back. And worst of all, your revenues are not increasing. Just take a typical example. Okay, if I'm earning 500,000 naira a month, I can also take a loan of 100,000 naira.
Because you can pay back.
Can pay back. It's easy. But when you now take a loan, when you now you're earning 500,000 naira and you're paying close to 400,000 naira as a repayment, that's choking. Normally, you should not exceed 60%. 60% of your earnings should not be used to, more than it should not be used to service your loans. And so once you've crossed that 60% threshold, you're in a danger spot. Complete danger. There's nothing you say about it. because your revenues are not increasing. It's only when your revenues are increasing, yes, you now have the appetite to take more loans and increase productivity. You increase whatever you seek to achieve. But more especially, those loans should also add more revenues to you.
So how does high domestic borrowing actually affect private sector investment as well?
Okay. Federal government, when federal government is coming to the market to borrow, they're paying at a high rate, high interest rate, which the private sector will not be able to compete. They can't. Because everybody will prefer to give to the government, because they know this government, you will always pay. More especially if it's in Naira. And one other thing, if you are borrowing in Naira, the government can maneuver its way around it and pay. Unlike a private sector where the risk is, they will not be able to pay the interest rates. They can't compete
with the government.
With the government, you can't. And so you are crowding out the private sector. Whereas the private sector will be more efficient in using those loans and creating productivity for the country.
So what policy reforms can actually be put in place in order to help with curb this problem? Because it's a rising problem on the other hand.
Well, it all rests with leadership. Once we have a leader, but
we do have a leader.
Once we have a leader that wants to take the bull by the horns and address our debt profile, it will be addressed. I just take the case of Obasanjo. He just went ahead. He inherited $3 billion. Crude oil price was less than $35 per barrel. Ramped up production of crude oil. Our foreign reserve grew to $67 billion. Negotiated for write-offs on formal loans and paid. It's just a leadership thing. Once the man at the top is determined to address this issue, we will come out of it.
So if the current debt trend continues, what would be the fate of Nigeria in the next 10 years or so?
You want me to be a prophet of doom? Okay, I don't know if you followed the trend, the Greek crisis, the Greek debt crisis. The Greek defaulted in their loans.
In paying back their loans?
Yes.
Okay.
And they were negotiating with the Troika, the European Community Bank, the German government, and I think, what was the third one? Now, one of the proposals, it's a very difficult pain to swallow, was the pension holders will take a haircut. Currently, pension funds is about close to 14 trillion or more. It's an asset. It's liquid. Will be forced. Current pension holders in Nigeria might be forced to bail out the country or take part of a haircut so as to be able to service the nation's debt. That is that bad. Just Google Greek default. You will see what actually took place. The pension holders were asked to take a pay cut, okay, depending on the amounts, rather than maybe currently I have some funds, maybe 2 million as accrued pensions. You might be asked to take maybe 1 million or 2 million or 1 million or 500,000 just to save the country. That's just one aspect. Or some of your prized assets. Well, they come in and say, okay, those are your assets, God forbid. We'll take control of it, run it for 4 or 5 years. So as the profit from it, you use it to service the loan. There are so many scenarios. Worst of all, your naira collapses entirely, and all your savings are wiped out. If you just Google the Weimar Republic in Germany, their currency collapsed. Complete collapse because of the weight and devaluation of the currency and printing of. They printed so much money and the currency went on a spiral. It's a complete sad scenario. If you just Google Weimar Republic, what actually happened, and you will see the worst side of it. I don't wish any country to go through it. It's not a good sight. So it's more or less for the leaders, my economic managers of the country to like sit down, say, this debt, because we run a debt-based economy across the globe, more or less like, okay, let me paint a picture where we're all swimming, and we're all swimming in the ocean of debt. So if I'm swimming and you're swimming, and you go belly up, if your neighbor has gone belly up, and your neighbor has gone belly up, you know there's danger. So that's the danger. When countries' currency starts collapsing beside you, you don't know, hey, you need to run, so that debt does not swallow you. And so that's the advice we need to sound out. Debt is good, but it needs to be properly managed, properly administered, and promptly paid, and ensure that your revenues are climbing up. And like I said, you have a backup plan, like gold as an insurance, so that when everything fails, gold, which is already staging a comeback in our global monetary policy, and will be revalued far beyond $3,000, $3,300, because the projection of gold right now, we're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 an ounce as a solution to address global debt and also finance the globe as a basis to issue debt.
So this the reforms now, what policy reforms do you think should actually be put in place in order to reduce Nigeria's dependence on borrowing funds to build its deficits?
What I really hope to see, the policies are all on papers. What I want to see, you call them maneuvers. My suggestion about the country looking out for gold, building its gold reserves, is a good policy maneuver.
So you're saying gold is the future then?
Yes. I'm an advocate of sound money, and I see gold playing a big role back again in global affairs. If you take a deep dive, there's a mass scramble for gold as a reserve asset, away from chasing dollars. Because once the price of gold is increasing, the value of the dollar and every other currency on the face of the earth declines. I told you last year the price of gold was $2,000 an ounce. It is now $3,300. So that means if I have dollar, before I can buy gold, I have to pay more for it. And so both the dollar and the naira that has its hook to the dollar is on the decline. It's on the decline. And so I see the nation ramping up its gold reserves, increasing it to 500 to 1,000 ounce. They will strategically place a country on a good footing to take advantage of potential increase in the price of gold. Because when the global powers finally decide on what to do with suppressed price of gold, Nigeria benefits from it.
Okay. I think we've come to the end of this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your input. Our conversation was on the economics and management of national debt in Nigeria. And our in-house guest, Ndudi Aniche, ex-banker and financial analyst, gave us an elaborate explanation on how these things work and the way forward. Thank you so much for your input, sir.
Thank you very much.
We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll have a next conversation for the night. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.